A very good evening, everyone. This is Joyshri Padgiri from Advancing Northeast, your host for the day, and I welcome you all to Advancing Northeast. As Advancing Northeast progresses with its aim to disseminate the right kind of information for the youths of Northeast in the field of education, employment, and entrepreneurship, we are delighted to bring to you sectorial experts from varied fields of interests from all kinds of disciplines, only to help you progress forward in your career fields. Today, we have the pleasure of having Professor Bhagirathi Panda, sir, and we'll be having a very fruitful discussion with Sir. Professor Bhagirathi Panda, sir, currently works as a professor of economics, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, and honorary director of ICSSR NERC, Ministry of Education, Government of India, Shillong. Earlier, he was also the Dean of the School of Economics, Management and Information Sciences and head of the Department of Economics, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. During 2008 to 9, Professor Panda was also on the faculty of IIM Shillong and in this capacity headed its Center for Sustainable Business Development. Professor Panda is an Asian Fellow of Asian Scholarship Foundation, Bangkok, and in this capacity worked as a visiting fellow in Thammasat University, Thailand, and Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok during the year 2003. He has also undertaken a number of research projects and consultancies from agencies like Ministry of External Affairs, Ford Foundation, Ministry of Rural Development, UNDP, VVGRI, National Labour Institute, and UGC. Professor Panda was a member of a number of expert committees formed by Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India on MNREGA. Currently, he is also the editor of the UGC Care listed journal Man and Society, published by SSR NERC Shillong, and the president of Northeast Economic Associations. Wow, that was quite an introduction and a description. We are delighted, and it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you for making time. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Jayashree. It's a pleasure on my part to be on this very platform, Advancing Northeast. So it's a pleasure
Yes.
on my part, and I look forward to have very informed and interesting conversation on this very topic that you have decided to go on today itself.
Yes, sir. Right. So we are accumulated here to discuss on the topic career pathways in economics and development economics, and to discuss the economic landscape of Northeast India. And so we look forward to delving into sir's expertise on the same. So without wasting much time, we'll move ahead with the discussion. And so, sir, we'd like to start with a little about development economics, about sustainable development, and how all of this plays a part, how all of this is interconnected, so that audience can have basic understanding of what it means, so that before we move ahead with the career prospects and everything. So, sir, I'll hand it over
Yeah,
to you, please. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much, Jayashree. These days, the interest in development economics and also to build a career in developmental economics is very, very, I think, is very encouraging, and the interest is magnifying, I can say, these days. It's precisely because of the reason that recently there is a revival of developmentalism all across the world. I'm saying across the world, there is a revival of developmentalism. When I say a revival of developmentalism, it means I'm going to say, you know, every nation is now mandated to realize, at least at a critical level, the requirements of sustainable development and the sustainable development goals. The 17 sustainable goals which have been identified at the world level, they need to be realized, I think, by every nation, every country of the world, and so also our country. So in that context, there is a requirement of a number of social scientists, developmental practitioners, and people who specialize in development economics. And again, this is much more important in the context of the Northeast and also in the context of developing countries like ours, precisely because of the reason that today the developmental outcomes in many of the developing countries like ours, and so also in the context of the Northeast, is to a great extent depends on the efficacy of institutional arrangements, efficacy of institutions. When I say institutions, it means both the formal as well as informal institutions. The formal institutions, they refer to the government, different at different levels, the central government, the state government, and also government at the district level. So formal as well as informal institutions, they do play a lot of important role in influencing developmental outcome. Similarly, the other important institution happens to be market in the sense the private sector. So market also plays an important role. And the third important institution in the development space happens to be the community. And in the context of the Northeast, the community also plays a very important role when it comes to developmental outcomes. Okay, any kind of critical developmental outcomes. So institutions are very critical to development. And in that context, actually, development economics is all about also understanding the dynamics of the institution, the how do institutions play an important role in influencing developmental outcomes, be it economic growth, be it employment, be it creating of infrastructure, be it providing better health, education. So in all these developmental outcomes, dimensions, institutions do play an important role. In addition to formal institutions also, we have a lot of informal institutions like customs, traditions, values of every society, every community. So they do also play, I think, an important role in influencing developmental outcomes. So understanding the dynamics of these institutions and their impact on development is also an important area of study in development economics. And that's where an understanding, a study, a career in developmental economics is very, very important for developing countries like ours, and more so regions like Northeast in the country.
Okay,
And
wonderful.
similarly, I can bring in also sustainable development. And I
Right,
was
right.
talking about sustainable development. See, today, every nation, as I said, is mandated to realize at a critical level different dimensions of sustainable development goal. Now, you know, even in the context of the Northeast also, when we are undertaking our journey of development, infrastructure development, industrialization, services sector development, we need to undertake all these, I think, activities, developmental activities, I think, in such a manner that it also ensures, in addition to economic sustainability, it also ensures social as well as also environmental sustainability. So when I say social sustainability, it means we need to have more of goods and services produced. We need to increase our income. We need to create more of employment. But in the pursuit, and you need to also have more of infrastructure which are required. But in the pursuit of having all these developmental outcomes, we also have to see that the gap between the rich and the poor doesn't, I think, go up beyond a critical limit. And then it's all about also how does, it's not about only to having all these developmental activities or outcomes. It's also equally important how do they come through. Do they come through the participation of large mass of the people, or it's only limited to a class of the people? So that participation element is equally important in sustainable development. And so in that process also, we need to create a lot of social networking. I think, social capital, as we call it. We have to have constant interaction with the people, different stakeholders in the process of undertaking developmental activities. We have to see that the critical element of participation is ensured. There is networked capital. So all these things actually ensure what we call social sustainability. In addition to that, also the third important dimension of sustainable development happens to be environmental sustainability. Now, environmental sustainability refers to two things. One is, we undertake these, developmental activities without compromising the needs of the posterity, the future generation. That's number one. Number two, in pursuit of having all these developmental outcomes, the material development, we should not, I think, exploit, damage the physical environment beyond a critically defined limit. So that's all about sustainable. That's all about the environmental sustainability dimension of sustainable development. And in realizing sustainable development, we need to have in our mind and in our in our practice all these three important dimensions of sustainable development. And that's where developmental economics teaching, understanding, research, and policy formulation, which comes out from developmental economics, is critically important.
Right, so wonderful beginning, I think. Like you said, institutions play a vital role. So that means, sir, all this is a step by step process, right? First, you need to understand development economics, and then comes the sustainable development part, and then how you interlink with environmental sustainability. That's what you meant,
Yeah.
right, sir? So how? Yes, sir. Please
No, no,
continue.
it's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, sir. I That's what I meant to ask. I was coming there. That how do is future economic aspirants, how do they approach this method, and in terms of career prospects also, since this is such a vast area, and then we also have step by down different categories, subcategories. So how would you suggest they would narrow down their interest areas, and how do they go about with their career choices?
See, I know before I come to this path and then the approach that
Right.
the aspiring students to take. Let me tell you first also. I think what are the career options nowadays available to students in development economics?
Yes, sir.
The kind of careers, the job prospect that they do have. See, mm, today, I think there is a huge requirement of developmental economists all across the world, and also within our country, even in the context of the northeastern region. Let me start at the global level. See, developmental economics can be accommodated, and in fact, one of the important area where they get employment and they can make it a career impact happens to be in academics. There are large number of educational institutions, higher educational institutions, very quality higher educational institutions at the global level, in our country, and also in the northeastern region, where students who come out of the universities having a master's and also for that matter a PhD in development economics, they can have openings for themselves as careers. They can be faculty members specializing in developmental economics, and not only in colleges and universities, even economics and for that matter development economics is also taught in IITs, IIMs, and then NITs. Every NIT is also having, I think, opportunity for faculty of economics there itself, and so also development economics. So, they can have a very inspiring career in teaching and research, particularly in teaching, and then comes research. At the global level, there are very known, acclaimed institutions which provide courses in development economics and also openings and job openings for students, particularly from developing countries. I know to get a job in those elite institutions, like for example, Oxford University, University of Sussex, for example, Glasgow University, Berkeley University, London School of Economics and Politics. Can you name? There will be hundreds such institutes at the world level, wherein I think there are openings for students from developing countries who expertise, I think, who specialize themselves in developmental economics. That's at the world level. Then comes, that's number one, in academics. Then comes research. For example, there are specialized research institutes at the international level and also at the national level, and also in the context of the Northeast. Let me name few of them. We have, in the country, 24 ICSSR research institutes. So like, for example, Institute of Economic Growth in Delhi. In Northeast, for example, we have OKD, ISCD, Amir Kumar Das Institute of Social Change and Development. These are all in government sector. I mean to say, in collaboration with state government and ICSSR. These are ICSSR sponsored institutes. 24 such institutes are there all across the country. Institute of Economic Studies, Institute of IJEC, Institute of Socioeconomic, policy. So like that, actually, we have 24 very known research institutes all across the country, wherein particularly, students or candidates who have specialized in development economics are preferred over others. So that's also another area in research. For example, you have SEDNOR. In IIM Shillong, they have a research institute called Center for Development of Northeastern Region. Under MDNR, also MDonor, there are also opportunities for developmental specialists to be observed. Then, similarly, in some of the universities also, there are specialized centers where, to study, I think, developmental economics or developmental problems like study of inclusion, exclusion, study of marginalization, study of ethnicity, study of development and underdevelopment. So there are large number of centers in the country as well as also in the Northeast, wherein actually students who specialize in developmental economics after their masters or even in their PhD, they can get employment and they can start a career there itself. In addition to that, also there are international developmental organizations. For example, World Bank. There are plenty of opportunities for young aspiring economists who specialize in development economics to join there as interns and subsequently as research associates. And there are also a lot of fellowship programs also offered by World Bank and its associated organizations. So World Bank is such an institution. ILO, International Labour Economics, is also, International Labour Organization is also another institution where they can get an opening. Similarly, you have IMF, International Monetary Fund, where I think a lot of students or candidates aspiring to get some kind of an opening at the international level after completing their studies in developmental economics. Then you have WHO, World Health Organization. Similarly, you have EPRI, I think, where a lot of students after completion of economics and development economics can also get an opportunity to make a career there itself. So there are large number of ADB, for example, Asian Development Bank, that is also there itself. And then ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, European Union, EU. So these are plenty of opportunities there itself also in the developmental sector, in the banking sector, wherein actually developmental economists can make a career. In addition to that, also there are international NGOs, known international NGOs, to name some of them, like ActionAid, Oxfam, so these are all, I'm saying, the list is endless. So wherein students who specialize in development economics at the master's level, MA, MSc, or after completing PhD in development economics, they can have very good openings there itself. And in the Northeast also, for example, NEDFI is there, NEC is there, MDonor is there. I think quite, and then private NGOs are also, known private NGOs are there. So wherein they can also make a beginning, and that beginning can be very fulfilling also. And let me tell you one more thing also. Development economics, see, students who specialize in development economics, they're little different from others. Of course, we'll be discussing in course of discussion what are the typical aptitudes and qualities required to go for development economics in course of the discussion. So now I think it's over to you. I mean to say, to take up some other issues that you
Right,
have
right.
in your mind.
Right. So, yes, I think you have provided a very extensive list, and it will be really helpful for students who are trying their luck in the field. So, that is one thing. And, sir, I wanted to ask, like you said, there's plenty of scope in the research field.
Yeah.
So, how is the practical implementation, sir, of the, because I think doing a research in economics is like investing for the future. It's like studying capital and everything. So how do you see the practical implementation goes on, sir? You have students under your ambit, you have your own experience yourself, so give us a little idea about that.
See, look at actually, let me just be very specific in the context of Northeast.
Yes, sir.
We see. Uh, there is a large number of public welfare programs which are implemented by government in this part of the country and the whole country, isn't it? For example, Manrega, PMJSY, NRLM, and you name. There are 766 public welfare programs which are being run all across the country by the central government only. And if you combine with that the programs run by the state governments, it will be, I think you can just imagine the numbers. Huge number of public welfare programs are being run, formulated, implemented, and practiced by governments of the day, state as well as central. Now, in the context of the Northeast, what do you find? Many such programs, I don't say that all the programs, but a good number of programs are being formulated and subsequently implemented, I think, without having very sound research base, evidence based research. So they are mostly formulated and implemented with a priori understanding of the bureaucrats. Okay, and that's one of the reasons as researchers we have found that often the programs do not deliver to the extent that's desired or mandated, or so they become suboptimal in terms of their delivery, or sometimes also they fail totally. Couple of them also fail totally. Okay, the prime reason for that is that these programs, when they were formulated and implemented subsequently, they are not backed by evidence-based research, very informed, I think, efficient research undertaken by social scientists and primarily by developmental economists. So that's why today there is a urgent need, and that is already it has started actually. I think governments also now have started actually recruiting consultants who have a specialized understanding in development economics. See, they are all taking them as they take them as consultants or as researchers to undertake that kind of the required research before the policy, before the program is implemented in terms of policy, to give them that feedback that yes, these are the areas wherein actually intervention can happen, and this is the way the intervention should happen. And based on that research, that evidence-based research, that research subsequently, I think governments they formulate policies of development, welfare measures, and that becomes more fruitful, more I think impactful. So,
Right. Yes, so one way to address is would definitely be that. I think that also comes off as a challenge, right, sir? Then, but we can only be positive that now people are, giving stress on the importance of research.
yeah, and that's where actually the
Yeah.
scope for developmental economists gets amplified. This
Right.
is the
Right.
requirement now.
Yeah.
So, and the more and
Exactly.
more the government detach, and then in today's world, for Northeast and for the whole country and for the whole world also, it's a data-driven economies. Data speaks. And so you have to combine two things, data with perspectives, or theory and perspectives. And development economics is such a subject which balances both. It, I'm say, it has wonderful theories, and it has also it has to, in by it gets a theoretical backdrop. It gets a theoretical strength. Anybody who aspires to a developmental economist have to understand, I think, a lot of theories in development economics per se, and in developmental studies also, I think, in general. And after that, collect the data, analyze the data, and then in the context, and then try to link them up. So that's where actually there is a challenge, but there is a great opportunity for students who specialize in developmental economics at their master's and at their PhD level to get opportunities for employment and to make a career there itself.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you. That is what we wanted to know. That's how that is also how one should approach. And then, sir, if we move ahead to, well, since you have been associated with a lot of projects as well, so you have seen how policy reforms takes place and everything. So how does the part of entrepreneurship comes here, and how institutions and entrepreneurship can be linked together? What kind of reforms have been taken up by the government, and how does economists find their role in all of this?
Yes, very important actually. I'm happy that you brought out this very issue. See, When it comes to development of any region, any country, and for that matter, Northeast also, see, entrepreneurship matters a lot. As we have all seen, you know, the I'm say, government can, create jobs, but not to the extent I'm say that's required for the whole economy. So it has its own limitations. Jobs have to be created through entrepreneurship. And let me contextualize it, in the context of the Northeastern economy, Northeastern society, because I think this program is more for our, students and for our
Yes,
youth
sir.
who are in the Northeast.
Totally.
Post-independence, the developmental model that was unleashed in this part of the country to promote development was it some kind of a dependency model of development. Wherein actually, see, as all of us know, post partition, I'm saying after independence, and post, the borders were all sealed. I'm saying 97% of the border of the northeastern, region is with the neighboring countries. So borders were sealed. Whatever trade, economic activities were happening, that got stopped. And after that, actually, the prime factor for us in the Northeast that was being highlighted by our administrators, developmental practitioners, people in power, is that actually security of the region is more important compared to these, I'm say, developmental requirements through, inter-country trade and all that. And afterwards, development was thought to be unleashed in this part of the country, realized in this part of the country by spending as much money as possible from Delhi. Getting the money from Delhi, spending it here itself, creating the infrastructure, all those things. But that kind of a developmental practice or model, I think, created a huge amount of harm also to this region. Particularly, you know, we could not we could not encourage entrepreneurship. That kind of a developmental model led to what's called in economics we call some kind of a rent seeking, huge rent seeking in this part of the country. Rent seeking is in the what is rent seeking? Rent seeking is, you know, uh, people thought development is all about money coming from Delhi being invested in this part of the country. I think through this institution of contractors and all that. But that somewhere that actually, you know, hampered this native spirit of entrepreneurship, particularly of the young, because everybody got into that. Okay, I'm say development will happen, money will come from Delhi, it will be invested here itself, and that led to rent seeking. Now, from 2014 onwards, when the new government came into power, they wanted to leverage the lookist policy, which was earlier lookist, now it's actist policy. They wanted to change, I think, and bring a reform with respect to the model of development for this part of the country. They wanted to actually, make actist policy as a macro developmental strategy for the development of this part of the country. That means we will develop through, I think, artist policy, wherein it's all about connecting with our neighbors. So, starting with Southeast Asia, then got expanded to Japan, then East Asia, and then to our now it is called Arctis Plus, wherein it's also to the Indo-Pacific. Okay, and so it was thought that through trade, investment, tourism, different kind of services, exports, we would be in a position to create maximum wealth and employment in this part of the country. Okay. But subsequently, it was realized, although, yeah, and subsequently it was realized, I mean to say, in a couple of years when this process was rolling, that we need to create a critical magnitude of infrastructure in this part of the country because it was lagging. Okay. And it was realized that entrepreneurship will not happen. See, at the core of success of artist policy lies entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship.
Why it's so? Because you can start and I'm saying a kind of a connectivity. You can start a relationship with our border, I'm saying our neighboring countries through IRX, international relation exercises, through peoples to people contact. Yes, that's required to start with. But to sustain it and to get benefits out of it, economic and other benefits out of it, and also to make it a win-win situation for us and also for them, what is required is entrepreneurship. That we produce commodities and services, I would say, which we can produce at a, at a comparatively, cost advantage situation, export them to those countries, the other countries, and they also produce goods and services and export to us, where they have comparative cost advantage, isn't it? But then what we found that in the process of analyzing all these things, what we found that entrepreneurship is not taking place, not basically because of lack of capital. Yes, capital is required, for investment. Capital today is not that much a problem. The banks in the northeastern part of the country, in the northeast region, are flooded with capital. The CD ratio, the credit to deposit ratio, is one of the lowest in the northeastern part of the country, in the country itself. It's almost like 39%, 40% for the last 3 years, and before 3 years, for almost 30 years, it was hovering around 34, 35%. That means out of every 100 rupees the banks mobilize as savings in this part of the country, only 39 rupees. I mean, if they mobilize 100 rupees, 39 rupees is given as loan, as credit to entrepreneurs and others. The rest amount of money goes for investment in other parts of the country. It's not invested here itself. Now, when you ask the bankers, why don't you give loans to the young entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs? The banks would say that we don't have demand. Demand in the sense, when they advance credit, it should be backed by some kind of collateral. And in the
Right.
many parts of the northeastern states, landed properties are owned by the, property rights are not well defined. Land is owned by community, for example. Okay, that's one of the reasons. Plus, there are other reasons also which I'll be discussing. So because of that, what happens? There is capital, but it's not gets it doesn't get invested in this part of the country. That's one reason. Second, which is very important, which that's why developmental economists are required and they analyze it. That one of the reasons for the entrepreneurs are not willing to, another reason willing to say undertake investment, is that actually the huge transaction cost. Okay? There is a presence of huge transaction cost. What is that transaction cost? There are different costs of production when an entrepreneur produces a commodity or a service. Labor cost is there, capital cost is there, they are all there itself. Those things are not that much a problem. The problem is transaction cost. What is that transaction cost? Transaction cost is all about, let's say, for example, it arises because the property rights are not well defined, so you cannot get appropriate credit. It's basically because governance is not very efficient. There are law and order problems. I'm saying, there are law and order distortions problems. There are, let's say, for example, some amount of, what we call, for example, extortions kind of a thing. And then, there is nepotism, corruption. Things are improving now, much improving now. Compared to 10 years, 15 years back, things have improved now. But still there is scope. For example, if somebody wants to become an entrepreneur, would like to go for some license. Earlier, it used to take 6 months, 1 year to get a license. Now it's much less actually. I think someone can get the license also in 1 month, also 2 months, also like that, or even in 7 days. Also there are chances also. But then still, I think there are problems there itself. Then the enabling role that this government needs to play, although it's improving, still also a lot needs to be done there itself. So these law and order deficiencies, property rights not being defined, then the cost of negotiation of contracts. When you do a business as an entrepreneur, there are negotiations that you have to do amongst parties. And the cost of that negotiation in this part of the country is more compared to other parts of our country. Then cost of enforcement of contracts. You get into some contracts when you start any enterprise. there will be raw material suppliers, there will be agents or persons or institutions to which you have to sell your dispose your commodity. So these things actually, these are called cost of enforcement of contract. If there's a contract, let's say the contract is violated, then what do you do? So you have an agreement that that particular agency will supply you raw material consistently without any interruption at a defined rate for coming 3 years. In between, the party violates the contract. Then what do you do? You go to the court. If you cannot resolve it amongst yourselves, then when you go to the court, it takes 5 years, 6 years, 10 years to dispose of the case. So your cost of negotiation of the contract is comparatively high because the legal arrangement is not that perfect also. Okay, so all these things taken together there are hundreds of such examples. Then transportation cost. When you want to transport commodities from one raw materials or produced products from one part to the other part in the northeast, because the infrastructure is the transport infrastructure is not that developed. Although things have much developed during the last 14 to 15 years, huge development has happened in this part of the country, and that's going to substantially, maybe in another 5-6 years, you will see it different northeast, and things will much more improve in that part. But still, as it exists now, all of these things taken the huge the increasing transportation cost and all these high negotiation costs, contracts enforcement cost, law and order deficits, that cost, all of these property rights not being defined, that cost, all of them taken together, we call it in economics the transaction cost. So the transaction cost of doing business in this part of the country is more compared to other parts of our country. And that's one of the reasons for which actually entrepreneurs do not make much of profit. And so in fact they incur losses. And that is why there is a urgent need to significantly reduce this transaction cost of doing business in this part of the country, so that our entrepreneurship culture gets embedded in this part of the country, and that helps to realize the ultimate objective of regional economic integration in the Act East policy. And that's where developmental economists are required. They have an insight because they're trained in terms of methodology, in terms of theory, they're all trained to address these issues. So what are the factors wherein the transaction costs are high and how could they be substantially reduced? There are a lot of positive things. Labor cost of production in this part of the country is comparatively low vis-a-vis countries like China or Thailand, or in fact actually even Japan, for example. But because the transaction cost is so high, that the benefit that we have with respect to availability of low labor cost, I think, it's more than, I think, it outweighs that advantage in low labor cost. Okay. So that's
Okay.
where actually we have a high requirement of for developmental economists to analyze these issues and put it in the proper perspective and give the right kind of advice, for policy making to the government and even to the private sector and even to the community also in the space
Right,
of
right.
development. In the space of development.
Yes, sir. Very important points that you highlighted. And sir, since it's already, I think, a decade, 10 years have passed since the Actis policy came into play. So, the problems are gradually, you people, you have brought this up. And I think this have been discussed before, and the government knows where the issue lies, where the loopholes are. So, how do you see, sir, how the progress has been made maybe over these 10 years, and what are the gaps that are yet to be filled, and where are young economists coming into
Yes.
picture here? Yeah.
See, three things are very important when it comes to bring in a very efficient entrepreneurial culture for the success of active policy. One is, which we have talked about, one is infrastructure to
Right.
start with. When it comes to infrastructure, let me tell you, I think during the last 10 to 11 years, significant improvement in infrastructure has happened in this part of the country. Just to give you some data, from 2014, I think April to March 2022, the amount of investment by the central government on infrastructure in Northeast has increased by 285 times. Never before had this happened. And you can see it getting reflected in terms of the roads being constructed, widened, 4-lane roads, 6-lane roads now coming up, railway lines. So not only in the road infrastructure, railway infrastructure, air infrastructure, look at the Udan scheme, water infrastructure, look at Brahmaputra, how it's happening. See, all these have given a massive push to infrastructure development in northeastern part of the country, and it's ongoing. And and then look at actually the kind of express highways coming up, all this. So I'm very sure in another 5 years, northeast will be a different northeast when it comes to infrastructure. So infrastructure fund, we are doing very well, and things are there itself. Although some more things are also required to be done. That's one. The other two areas where we need improvement, they are, one is innovations and institutions. Okay. When it comes to innovation, okay, thus Niti Aayog comes up with the innovation index. Okay, they call it innovation index. In that innovation index, when it started actually initially, the methodology was a little different, and then the parameters were also, I'm saying the number of indicators that were taken at that time were less. So when it came up initially, all the northeastern states, okay, minus Sikkim, they're below the national average. Now, all the northeastern, I think 50% of the northeastern states are above the national average. 50%, the latest report says there is improvement now with the expansion in the variables and the indicators. So 54 of the states are above the national average, 4 of the states are the below the national average. But then that means still, so those who are below the national average, they need to perform better in the innovation index, so that, in the front of innovation. So innovation needs to be scaled up, needs to be improved. Because, why innovation is so important, let me tell you, that's what there is a theory where developmental economics again comes to play a role. There is a very famous theory given by an economist called Supater. Supater. Supater says entrepreneurship happens through creative destruction. He says entrepreneurship happens through creative destruction. What is that creative destruction? Let me give a concrete example. We are having these days mobile phones. Today we have a mobile based on a particular technology produced by a particular company and branded. You see, after 1 month, that mobile technology, I think, becomes dated. A new technology comes in, a new mobile comes in. So what happens? This entrepreneur, I'm saying, or another entrepreneur has tried to compete with the other entrepreneur to bring in a better product through innovations, through technological innovation. So this is called creative destruction. I mean, creatively you destroying the
Yeah,
earlier
this,
mobile and
yeah,
bringing in a new mobile, new product.
right.
This is called creative destruction. So entrepreneurship happens through creative destruction, and creative destruction happens through innovations, and innovations happens through R&D, research and development. And
Development.
that's where actually we need to spend more and more money when it comes to research and development. So we need to, and as it stands today, let me give the data. That's where actually infrastructure we are doing very fine. And in another 5-6 years, as I said, will be, I think maybe our infrastructure will be better than some of the developed countries even, when it comes to infrastructure. But on innovations, we have to do a lot. Right now, what we are spending, at the global level, our innovation index rank is now around 40. Okay, smaller countries, South Korea, Israel, they are in the first 10. Whereas a country like ours is, although it was 80 couple of years back, now it is 40. Significant improvement is happening. But a lot needs to be done, I think, when it comes to a country of the size of ours. And as it comes, as it's seen now with I think data say, I think for the last 30 years, 35 years, we are spending only 0.7 to 0.8% of our GDP on R&D, which is abysmally low. Look at countries like Israel. Israel spends 4.2% of its GDP on innovation, R&D. South Korea spends almost more than 4%. China spends 2.5%. United States of America spends 2.4, 2.5% of its GDP on R&D, whereas we spend only 0.7 to 0.8%.
Big
That's
difference.
big difference. That's where actually we and government is aware of that. That's why I think there is a lot of this I'm saying discussion going on how to increase the expenditure on R&D to bring in private sector because government itself will not be able to have that much of money. So along with private sector they can combine and increase this percentage of expenditure on R&D. So innovation is the next one where we need improvement. The third one and the most important one is the role of institutions, which I had talked about it.
Yeah, yes.
So that is where actually good governance, government and governance, they're all different. Good governance, the enabling role, government should ensure perfect law and order. Government should say that there is no nepotism, no favoritism when it comes to, I think, bringing in entrepreneurial culture itself. Government should also play that role that the negotiation cost, the property rights are all being defined, I think, with the help of the community or other stakeholders there itself. And then government to see that actually the transportation cost and all that goes down by having better infrastructure and the enabling role that government needs to play. So that's where actually and then similarly, there is also a need for improvement with respect to the informal institutions. Like for example, our mindset,
Yeah.
our values, our I'm say habits, cultures. Some of these are pro-development, some of these are not pro-entrepreneurship. So the ones which are not pro-entrepreneurship needs to be also, I think, jettisons or reformed, and the ones which are pro-entrepreneurship needs to be cultivated more and scaled up, so that I mean to say the institutional efficacy gets enhanced. And that's one of the biggest challenge, and particularly in the context of the Northeast, is how to improve upon the institutional efficacy. Because at the end of the day, this year, I think three economists got Nobel Prize in economics, primarily based on this work. The work of that they have all come up with this conclusion that scaled development in developing countries particularly depends on the quality of its institutions. And that's why we have a massive challenge in the context of the Northeast. Infrastructure, yes, we have taken up the challenge, coming up very finely. Innovation, something has been done, something needs to be done,
Done.
but then
Institutions.
institutions we need to take care of. And
Yeah.
that's where there is a huge challenge and also opportunity together for developmental economists to come to soldier that responsibility and to make it a career also.
Yes, sir, right. I think all works hand in hand. Even the public needs to be aware, like you said, the informal values, the informal parts also, that also needs to be strengthened. So I think we have a lot of areas to be touched upon, and I think the government knows the best anyway. What we all can, I think, talk about is how the economists that we were speaking about, like the economists. So, like you said, they are the problem solvers because you said they address the issues. You all bring out the problems, the government knows the problems, but these are where the economists come and they actually chart down the path. So sir, what kind of, like you said earlier, you'll be speaking on this, so I think now is the best time to discuss what all are the qualities besides being a problem solver, also what are all the skills and qualities that are most needed, especially at this hour, at this stage where we are in, and how the government is operating right now. So yeah.
See, to make a career in development economics, the aspiring students need to have certain, I would say, certain requirements. What are they? One is a developmental economist, I think, needs to be open to, more of multidisciplinary studies. See, you need to have that, I'm say, aptitude. It's not to be normally, see, you get case down to a particular, I mean to say, topic in that subject. Okay. For example, if it is, let's say, econometrics, I get, I'm say case to that, or level economics into that. But when it comes to developmental economics, a developmental economist will not be able to be an efficient developmental economist unless he has a good understanding of, let's say, for example, even allied subject, like at least a critical understanding. Like, for example, let's say, for example, you are going to give a solution to existing rural problems. Okay. Now, as an economist, developmental economist, giving a solution to rural problems is not only based on economic factors. You need to also know the rural sociology, the rural power structure, the rural polity, the rural environmental base. Okay. So as a developmental economist, you need to have that interdisciplinary, or for that matter, that multidisciplinary kind of, I mean, say multidisciplinary approach and framework of mind. Then only I think you can, and you should venture into developmental economics, because the scope of development economics is very vast compared to some other branches in economics, number one. Number two, you need to have a good grounding in theory as well as also research methodology, like, for example, data analytics skills, data analysis skills. So you should know how to blend them together, have a very good understanding of the theory, and then also a good understanding and expertise and I mean to say, and efficiency in handling data in terms of right kind of methodology. And when you combine them, I think you become a good or an efficient developmental economist. That's number one. Number two, you should also know, I mean, say, you should work with different stakeholders, not to get, at least in the initial period. When you start as a young, a professional, young economist, you should have good internship in different institutions, in maybe international NGOs, maybe international developmental organizations, maybe national organizations. I'm as an intern, as an I'm take that apprenticeship or that
Yeah.
intern, and then get exposed. And for even to work with community, developmental economists also work with communities. For example, if you are working in an NGO, you need to understand the community practices, and so that's why you should be open to all these challenges. It's not like, in a corporate job you are having as an economist analyze only banking data and then that's all. So to be a developmental economist, I think it's very, very, I think the challenge is a lot. You need to be wide open to these, I mean to say, these nuances. And the more you understand, get exposed to the nuances, and then based on that, get your own insight and information, and then go for abstraction. So the third quality of a developmental economist, based on the accumulated theory, informed theory, the methodology, the skill to analyze data, handle data, and then based on these two, the third thing the developmental economist needs to, I think, know or develop that expertise is abstraction. Based on this, you need to go for efficient abstraction. That's, I think, number three. And as I said, you need to also be exposed to different organizations and get that experience. And then subsequently, say you need to work. Let's say the NGOs have a particular bent of mind and work practice. The government sector has something else. The banking sector has someone. International developmental organizations work on certain benchmark values and ethics. So the more you are exposed to these values and you accumulate these practices working with them, I think the more enriched and informed and expert you become. And then, so that's why that at the back of your mind, you should have these all these nuances and a solution for that nuances you can have. If you imbibe these qualities, it's not that easy, but it's challenging, but it's also very enriching. And you see the kind of pleasure that a developmental economist gets by taking on these challenges, particularly challenges of the community, challenges of the country, challenges of the government, challenges of developmental institutions, and giving solutions to that. It's really, really rewarding, and it's fulfilling that you may not get everywhere. So that's why you will see in the cruise a large number of young students these days. Some of them they live in jobs like Indian Administrative Service. They go for, I think, these kind of jobs as developmental economist, because they would like to work more on these challenges, come up with solutions, and then maybe I think that becomes rewarding and fulfilling for them.
Definitely, sir. If you can make a mark, make a difference, and create any value for society. So, yeah, that's what the real challenge lies, I think. Uh, so, sir, you said about the abstraction part in the end. I wanted to break in there, but I could not. But can you explain it more? Because I could not really get it, what it really means. The last point that you mentioned.
Okay, so it's abstract in the sense actually. See, you have data, you analyze the data. I'm saying, and you have some, and so other, you have accumulated previous theories also at the back of your mind. You have as an developmental economist, but I think to make an the organization for which you are working. Let's say if it is government, then for government policy. If it is a private sector or a farm for its own policy, or if it is a community or it's an NGO for the NGO for its own policy, you need have that habit and that expertise of abstract in the sense synthesize all of them and make a generalization.
Okay, okay.
Okay, it's like a building a very simple but very authentic and very effective theory kind of a thing.
Like a statement for a paper or
Exactly.
a statement of
Yes.
purpose, sort of.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
That is what basically I mean by abstraction.
Right, right. Got you, sir. Okay, so that's how it should be. And I think young economists listening to us will really, would like to jot down the points and really work on them there. So, sir, with your expertise in rural non-farm economy and also MG and Reka, so what research areas in rural development, like you already spoke about rural development a while ago, so should the young economists focus on?
See, as I said just a couple of minutes before, as a developmental economist working on the rural economy is a great challenge. That's why I said, you need to understand, in addition to your understanding of pure economics, right? Your economic insights, theories, and all that. You also need to understand, as I said, the rural polity, the rural sociology, the the power dynamics, all these things. So you need to have a good understanding of all those. Combined with that, actually, then uh, you know, when you combine all of them, then you have a comprehensive understanding of the rural challenges. Okay, so let's say, for example, if there is poverty, let's say we would like to overcome rural poverty or rural unemployment. Now, rural unemployment is not a purely economic phenomenon, or rural poverty. It's basically poverty is there basically, as sense says, that it's basically because of the capability deprivation of I'm say people in the rural areas. Now, capability deprivation is basically, I'm saying it's not basically because of income. Income is one of the factors, but capability deprivation can happen for various reasons. For example, in a country like ours, people belong to, they have different affiliations, caste, class, different affiliations. So, see, sometimes if you are not empowered, you are not socially empowered. You may be having, let's say, income, but then you are not socially empowered. Right? You may not be in good health, let's say, for example. So these things are very, very important. It's not about only income increase. So it's all about expanding the capability vector of individuals and also the communities. So that empowerment dimension is very, very important. And then again, in the context of the, let's say, for example, the girls, the women, for example, the girls, for example, it's again much more challenging because you have, although things are improving now in the rural areas, but then there are still stigmas. There are also, I think, situations, negative situations. They're all, I'm say, negotiating now. So understanding those dynamics, those nuances, is one of the biggest challenges for a developmental economist who is going to work on rural development. That's one part. So one has to understand that, number one. Number two, let's say, for example, there is one of the important theory in economics which talks about development, examines development, and gives an insight how to accelerate development. Is called the structural transformation theory of economic development. It's called the structural transformation theory of economic development. Now, that structural transformation theory talks about the kind of transformation that happens broadly in two spaces, two domains. One is income, the other one is employment. Although other things are also important, but then primarily these two.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at actually today's rural economy, it's not the rural economy of, let's say 78 years back. Initially, the economy was rural and urban. There is a dualism. Today, rural economy is also having a dualism. We have the rural agricultural. Earlier, 60, 70 years back, and before that also, rural was synonymous with agriculture. Urban was synonymous with manufacturing and high-end services.
Industries. Yeah.
Industry. But today, you will find in rural areas, there are also different kind of industries, different kind of non-agricultural activities are coming up. And the data say, latest data for 2022-23 of PLFS data, periodic labor force survey data of NSS shows that approximately 41% of the workers in the rural economy of our country, they are engaged in non-agricultural activities. That is called non-farm activities, non-agricultural activities. Okay, good percentage. And in the context of the Northeast, it's almost 40%. So 40% of our workers in the rural areas of the Northeast are engaged in non-agricultural activities. Fine. Now the reason is, then it's a big challenge for anybody who doesn't know the nuances would say, oh, it's very good. People are now, more and more people are working in the Northeast in non-agricultural activities. But when you decode it more, okay, then what you find, what are the activities that they are, more and more of these people are coming and working in the non-farm sector? Is it basically because of pull factors, developmental factors, that urbanization happening, skill is expanding, or in a lot of industries are there, high-end services sector are there, IT and all those kind of things, hospitality sector. Yes, they are there, but not to that extent. Actually, our analysis shows a good number of these people in the Northeast workers, they leave agriculture and come to non-agriculture primarily, or they combine agriculture and non-agriculture also, primarily because of the reason that agriculture, there is no scope for more employment. It's, and then the landlessness is very fast increasing in Northeast. People are becoming landless. Population is, the land-man ratio is very fast declining. The per capita availability of cultivable land is declining because of increase in population. Right? So in that context, so there are two factors which increases this, what you call the percentage of people coming to non-agricultural sector in the rural economy. One is the pull factors, developmental factors, that is of course there in terms of increase in agricultural productivity, urbanization, skill, access to credit, all those things. That's of course happening, but not to the extent that the distress factors are working. What is that distress factor? Because people do not have much of income generation in the agriculture sector, and they are leaving agriculture and coming to non-agriculture sector and taking up any kind of low-end jobs that are available, like as casual workers, casual workers in Manrega, PMJSY, this kind of jobs, which are primarily, low-end jobs, not very high-end jobs kind of a thing. And that's the reason for which actually the non-farm sector, percentage is increasing in the Northeast, which is not a very good sign. In fact, if it increases because of developmental factors, because high-end jobs are being created, that's a very good sign. Now, any development economist understanding of the rural economy, giving a solution to solve the problems of the rural economy, needs to have this understanding and then see and come up with a solution that how this farm and non-farm, this agriculture and non-agriculture sectors both can be calibrated and the effect can be maximized. For example, how to increase productivity in agriculture. And once productivity in agriculture increases, is one of the important pull factors which leads to quality employment creation in non-farm sector. Similarly, urbanization. Similarly, for example, access to credit to become entrepreneurs. These are all positive pull factors which create better jobs in the non-farm sector. So understanding this linkage between the farm and the non-farm is very, very important. And identifying the factors which can maximize this linkage effect between the farm, I'm sorry, the agriculture and the non-agriculture sector is one of the important, I think, challenge to developmental economists. And that's where actually they can contribute significantly to, I think, to contribute to fast and efficient development of the rural economy in the northeastern part of our country.
Right, right. I am slowly trying to comprehend how critical all of this is and how responsible work it must be for the economists out there. Since we are talking about bridging the gap between the rich and the poor somewhere, I guess, sir. Yeah, right. So, like you said, you have also, pointed out ways in which the things can be addressed and how the gaps can be bridged and everything. So, sir, all of this, I think the main summarization will be that the economists have to come into the picture and they have to do their job really, really well. And also, people need more and more of awareness. Right, people also need to start understanding why and how are the things happening around them and society in general.
Sure,
Yes, yes.
definitely,
Right,
definitely.
sir. So, sir, how do you see that for the economists out here? What kind of fellowships, internships? Like you said, they should get internships, apprenticeship maybe to enhance their skills and everything. So, can you speak a little about how that market here is in terms of fellowship opportunities or any kind of opportunities for the economists? Yeah.
Yeah, very good. This is a very good question, and particularly very useful for our aspiring young students. See, currently also we are implementing the National Education Policy 2020, called as NEP 2020. Some people also call it as New Education Policy. So it's National Education Policy 2020. One of the important requirement under this NEP 2020 is that students need to go to be sent for internship. Okay, which was earlier in a very, I'm say, in a very controlled manner was prevalent only to elite institutions like IIMs or IITs. Now it's being, I think, it's a part of the curriculum of all, I think, graduate and postgraduate courses. And the moment it has come up now, universities, colleges are tying up with institutes for entrepreneur and for internship program. For example, I am heading the this ICSSR regional center for the Northeast. Now, ICSR a couple of months back came up with a huge advertisement. I'm so with an advertisement with a huge openings for students in social sciences to go for entrepreneurship and with some kind of stipend. Okay, Indian Council of Social Science Research 2 months back. Similarly, many of these government organizations, because government has now mandated them, like MDonor, ministries, for example, different kind of ministries, they are also coming up with, I think, with opportunities for internship, apprenticeship, or internship for students. You can see even uh, uh, Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, just to give an example, has scope for, I'm saying, internship. Different banks, for example, RBI, NABARD, and other banks also, they have also started opening up their I'm saying their offices to entrepreneur to I mean say internship from colleges and universities. So everybody, and that's basically because the government at the highest level has mandated that these things are required and these institutions have to provide. And it's a win-win situation. When the students go there itself, they understand. For example, AG, they have also come up with I'm say expertise in accounts, audit kind of a thing. They can get some kind of insights from there itself. So I think this is now gaining ground, and I'm sure actually with the government initiative, with the private sector initiative, and many private sectors also have started actually opening their, I'm going to say their factories, their business organizations to this kind of internship also. Earlier it was only confined to IIM students, for example, management students. Now it's being scaled up to others also, depending upon the, the aptitude, the wish, of the students. Okay. So these are, I'm saying, we are all evolving. And then fellowships, as I said, those good students, for example, who would like to explore at the international level. I'm telling you, World Bank, ADP, IMF, ILO, IFRI, and then many of these international NGOs, for example, Oxfam, ActionAid, UNDP, United Nations Development Program. They are offering, I think, what's called actually internship, as well as also research assistant positions to many such aspiring students. I'm say students who do, I think, courses in economics, development economics, and even other branches of social sciences also. Okay. So there are, I think, the scope is increasing. What's required is that flow of that information, the right kind of information needs to be, I think, needs to be given to our young students by the higher educational institutions, by the government, and even by other stakeholders, important stakeholders who are working in the development space. No, uh, Jaspreet, I think you are mute actually.
I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was. Am I audible now, sir?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. That's what I was saying. That yeah, like you said, the students also, I think, need to do their appropriate amount of research, and
yes.
this projects and everything, like you mentioned, that government has a lot of NGOs. Also, you said. So, sir, I also assume that these institutions are also where they can, really mark their careers, and they can also get paid well as well, right, sir? So the scope is good, definitely financially as well as for their own.
Yeah, I think, let me tell you, I'm saying the
Yeah.
payment is, see, if you compare with some select jobs like it's say investment banking or some elite IT jobs, the payment may not be that rewarding, let's
Yeah.
say. But
Okay.
then it's rewarding. It's not that bad. But the advantage is that actually it's much more fulfilling. I mean, so when you work in the field of development and handle these nuances as a developmental economist, I think you gain plenty of understanding, knowledge about society, people, economy, and it's a comprehensive understanding. It's not just a narrow understanding. When you work for a specialized bank and you get little more, but then they're actually, I'm say, I should not say that actually it's not required, that's also required. But as a development economist, the knowledge, the understanding, the experience that you get when you work with different stakeholders, and let's say you work in the field of poverty, unemployment, empowerment, institutions. I mean, so these are all, I'm saying you need to have that temperament, and it's a rich understanding that you get. It becomes a way of life for you. You get the, whatever, it's not bad. You paid reasonably, adequately well. And then more than that also, you get a huge experience. I think I think that I think no other job would give that much of rich, varied experience. This is almost like impacting your own, I'm say, a way of life and becoming so much fulfilling compared to, I think, a job where actually, for example, you don't have those kind of challenges.
Yes. Yes, sir. It
That's
is
why,
radiating,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
from
why,
you
see,
as well. Yeah.
yeah. Let's say, for example, an Indian administrative service officer, let's say, if somebody with developmental economics background joins, I think, Indian administrative service, will be a very good administrator because he or she has a wonderful understanding of the processes of development, the nuances of development. So already, I think by the time he joins his job, he has seen it, as she or he has already undergone those processes and has a good understanding of the theory, the research methodology. And when he or she becomes a deputy commissioner or the district collector, for example, in the field, when he sees these situations, then if he has that kind of an aptitude, for example, he can easily bring in that field experience and contribute significantly to enrichment of development theory and development practice.
Okay. Okay, sir. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So, sir, this is just a personal question that strike right now only. That since you are in the field of academics, you're a professor, but you specialize in development economics. So, how is it, sir, that being an academician and then you study all of this, but then you are not out in the field as well because your job is not really that. So, how does is it conflicting, and how do you go?
No,
Yeah.
Yasri, this is where actually I'm saying I have tried to combine both.
Okay.
As a
There is a
person,
point of intersection,
yes,
right?
yes, that
Yeah.
is what actually as a developmental economist to try to combine both theory and also practice, having field experience. I have worked almost see, from 2000 to almost 7 years. I have worked in a program called MGNRG, Manrega, in different committees of Government of India. I have visited almost 22 states all across the country and very interior places of the rural areas just to see how this program is being implemented. And I was in the committee of capacity building in NREGA, Central Committee. Government of India Committee, Ministry of Rural Development. I was also in the committee of formulation of research methodology to monitor and go for impact assessment of NREGA. So there itself actually was so enriching experience going there itself. I'm so the field interacting with the workers. I'm saying, for example, we talk about participation. Okay, we talk about, let's say, for example, you know, I can tell you one very interesting experience in the context of
Yes, sir. Please.
Assam. Nothing personal against the officer concerned. We went to evaluate NRAGA and its impact. Through a review meeting with some senior officers of Assam government. That's way back, I think, 10 years back. Uh, the office, the principal secretary concerned at that point of time, it's a very efficient person, but it happens, you have so much challenges. He gave one opinion when we are asking him questions, why is it so, actually, why it's, there are some of the parameters on the basis of which we evaluate, why this has not happened. With the central team, actually, we came to evaluate that. Then he said, this program has given me sleepless nights. I think it should, I must say, then he used little bit of, because little bit of, he became little emotional and used little bit of words which should not have, but then he apologized subsequently. But then afterwards, I pointed it out to the respected bureaucrat. What you say, sir, what you say, I think disruption, what you say, I think lawlessness, to me as a developmental economist, it's not lawlessness, it is a process of development. Let's say, for example, if the if the let's say the women have out the video, they had to dismiss 3 videos, suspend good number of videos, block development officers, where program officers in Manrega, Narega. That's why he was getting, I mean to say, agitated and all that. Natural. But then I said, sir, what you say lawlessness is, for me, it's development, the process of development unfolding. Why? We have to understand why these, I mean, say, ladies have get out the video. Because there is a stipulation that within 15 days, I'm saying, whatever works they have done, their dues needs to be paid to them. Per
Right.
months took 3 months that was not paid. So they came and get out. So this is a sign of development because they're empowered now. Development is all about empowerment. So they are now empowered. So to you, it is lawlessness. To me, it is the process of development getting accentuated. Then, of course, and then we become good friends. And, so I mean to say, these are all,
Right, right, sir.
so
Experiences and
you
yeah.
when you combine theory and then with practice. As a developmental economist, I have methodology, I have theory. But that's not, to be a good teacher also. In fact, I feel many times teachers to teach development economics have to go to the field and see the situation there itself, how it is unfolding there itself. And on the basis of that also, you get a lot of insights. You can revise theory. You can even at times of time, if this is not working in the field, you can discard that theory also. A new theory can come up. That's the synergy between theory, practice, and policy. So a developmental economist needs to be grounded also, needs to visit also the fields when programs and policies, for example, are being implemented and get that feel there itself. And I have, I'm saying 7 years actually, I got plenty of, the whole 2 months of my vacation without taking single pie, except they were all taking care of our hospitality travels. We were evaluating this program and giving our own insights. So you get, when there's a learning experience, so you get to learn a lot there
So,
itself. You know,
right, sir. So I think
mobilization, for
definitely,
example, I
yeah,
have seen actually how this program has mobilized thousands of women, particularly in the undivided Andhra. Just in a, so that has, when we used to ask these ladies during lunchtime, what do you discuss? They say we discuss about our children's health, education. So that gave them a platform. That is mobilization. That's empowerment. That is a subtle way of empowering, and I'm going to say empowering the women. And they got they formed associations, self-help groups. So NRAG gave them a platform. Through that, they formed self-help groups. So these are all, I think, subtle ways of empowering them, and that is what actually you need to observe as a developmental economist, and then try to, to say, analyze it, apply your own theory. If this conforms to your existing theory, it's fine. If it doesn't, then change your theory, and that happens when, I think, and then that also impacts policy. So that's so a good developmental economist needs to be grounded in theory, practice, and policy.
policy. That is a really commendable job that you did, and also, like you shared your story, that's one way of looking at things, right, sir? Perspective. So I'd
Yeah.
also add that a development economist, someone also needs to be maybe optimistic that this is how.
Optimistic, and then a developmental economist also need to be, I think, need to have that attribute of empathy and sympathy.
Empathy and sympathy. Yes, yes, wonderful. Okay, okay. I personally did not look at economics this way until today I talked to you. So, thanks for that, sir. I think we have almost covered all the important key areas that we were meant to, right from policies and active policy and the students' career pathways. But if you want to add anything else, sir, from your account, uh, you can, and then we will move ahead with the last ending of the session. Please, sir.
One thing I would say, I just I'm say cite here one developmental economist, one of his statement can cross where he says, development lives in the minds of the people. Development lives in the minds of the people. This is one line statement, but it's a very powerful statement. Okay, why is it so? See, it's all said and done. I mean, say, if I think we do not internalize development. See, our values, traditions, our they need to also be pro-development, isn't it? In addition to, I think, infrastructure, innovations, and all those things I have talked about, it's basically the institutional, reforms and the institutional, improving the institutional efficacy. Uh, you know, look, look at actually countries. See, look at actually Pakistan, for example, as a country. Why it's a, I'm to say, it's a country in turmoil, isn't it? The prime reason for that is the institutions have been compromised a lot. That's why I think we should not do anything to compromise with the efficacy of institutions, formal or informal. Yes, if there is a good government, so that's why good government, good governance, both are equally important. Similarly, the market, public sector, the private sector is also equally important. Similarly, the community is also equally important.
So, sir, you mean intervention is not really necessary
No, no, no.
if the institutions, yeah.
Intervention is required. Intervention should be positive intervention to increase the efficacy of the institutional arrangements. For example, I'm so happy when you see so much of good things happening in the front of infrastructure, even on the front of innovation, and also good things are happening in the front of institutions. Okay, using technology, we have been able to significantly, I think, check corruption. For example, I remember when I was a student, many used to go in trains without paying anything. The TT would take money bribe and give you a seat also, and reserved seat. But today, I think technology has changed that. So now, and that's a very good thing that the government of the day today is using technology, as a tool of enabling citizens, as a tool of I think overcoming corruption. You know, so leveraging technology again can also enhance the efficacy of institutions. Okay, number one. Number two, all these three, four important stakeholders in the development space: government, market means the private sector, community, and the civil society, which includes the academia and everybody, you and me together, should work in tandem, not parallel to each other. Countries, societies where they're all working together, I think it becomes a developed society. It becomes a I mean, say it realizes the highest magnitude of sustainable development. Look at these Nordic countries. Although they cannot be compared with India, India is a very vast country. Nordic countries are small countries. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, these countries. So the sustainable development goals are much more achieved in those countries, and then the human development index very high and all that. It's fine. Why is it so? Because the mindset of the people, the calibration, the convergence of all these four important stakeholders: the government, the private sector, the community, and the civil society, is wonderful. And I'm saying, so that's what actually we need to, I think, look upon. Let's have a critical convergence of all these four important stakeholders, bring them together,
Together,
and
yeah.
that would significantly also reduce transaction cost of doing business. And then that would
Create
also lead to
opportunities for entrepreneurship as well.
entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and that would also lead to better realizing many of the goals of sustainable development. Look
Yeah.
at Northeast, for example. When you see the SDG goals, 15 goals are important for Northeast, and let me tell you the latest data. It is very badly for the Northeast. In 12, I'm saying, if you look at actually Northeast, 6 of the states in the Northeast are below the national average in terms of SDG goals. And in very important goals, like for example, business, infrastructure, and entrepreneurship, for example, I'm saying particularly entrepreneurship and industrial activities. That goal, all the northeastern states are below the national average.
Really
And then
disappointing.
in 12 of the, see, out of these 15 goals, in 12 of the goals, Assam being the largest state in the northeast, I'm saying in terms of population, below the national average.
Yes.
A lot needs to be done there itself. Although I know last 4-5 years, huge amount of infrastructure development happening. Maybe in another 5 years, Assam will be, a lot of improvements will be visible in Assam in terms of infrastructure and innovations. And that combined with the institutional efficiency, I think will do wonders for our economy, our country, and our society. But at the end of the day, we also see, look at these Nordic countries. Yes,
We can derive a
formal,
lot of examples from them. Yeah.
formal institutions are working very fine. In addition to that, also informal institutions, the mindset, as I said,
Yes.
development lives in the minds of the people.
People.
You give people the best of infrastructure, but if the mind, for example, you give them the best of railways, but in their mind, if they are not sensitized to cleanliness, if it has not been embedded in them, they will make the I'm say the railway course, I'm say the apartments ugly. I mean to say we can say ugly.
Good. Yeah.
So that's why the mindset is very, very important. So that's why this statement is a very powerful statement that at the end of the day, development lives in the minds of the people. And
People.
that's where actually we as individuals, I think, need to imbibe that, need to be sensitized to that. And developmental economics ultimately also, in addition to using their economic tools and all that, also need to understand these informal institutions much more and
Much more. Yes.
come out with kind of solutions how to improve the efficacy of informal institutions.
Okay, okay, okay. So we cannot emphasize more on how important is the informal institutions for everything to come together, right? For now, though, I think it's an utopian dream sort of, sir, where everything is coming together and playing at the same time. But like you said, we can be positive that in
Yes.
the coming years, Assam can also do that, and the
Oh, it's doing.
SDGs can also be
Assam
met
is
with.
doing, all the
Right?
northeastern states, many of the
Yes.
northeastern states are doing. Arunachal is doing very good. Assam is doing very good. That's what actually I think, when the process of development unfolds also, it also brings in challenges. And we
Challenges.
need to negotiate with these challenges.
Yeah.
And how efficiently we negotiate with these challenges when the process of development, massive development process, opens up, evolves. So we need to also create those institutional arrangements to negotiate effectively with those challenges.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I think that is why we need to have a point of discussion and more talks on all of this so that people are sensitized and we can create more awareness that way. Thank you so much, sir. I think we almost talked about everything. And lastly, sir, I think you almost quoted a very good line. But if you want to give any last message for the viewers watching us, and also few words on what do you think about this initiative, sir, Advancing Northeast?
Yesri, let me also emphasize one more point. When it comes to development economist and to be an effective development economist, one need to imbibe the multidisciplinary approach in one's research, teaching, and study. Take, for example, Amartya Sen, the noted economist. Amartya Sen had a very good understanding of the principles of economics, the science of economics. But in addition to all of them, he had also profound understanding on sociology, polity, geography, ethics, and philosophy. And in his exposition of different theories of development, he had made a lot of use of the findings, the nuances in these subjects. Similarly, let's take the case of literature. A number of great developmental economists have taken a lot of inspiration from literature to fine tune their theories, their principles, their, I think, research outcomes. This reminds me a poem which I had read in my early college days. The title of the poem is Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard, written by Thomas Gray. I just cite a couple of lines from that very powerful poem. It goes like this. Full many a gems of purest rare serene, the dark unfathomed caves of the ocean bear, full many a flowers are born unseen and waste their sweetness in the desert air. Chill, penury repress their noble rays and froze the genial current of the soul. It means there are a lot of precious stones, gems, which are there itself beneath the deep sea. No one is able to appreciate their worth. Similarly, a good number of flowers of beauty and fragrance, they bloom in the desert, but there is no one to appreciate their beauty and their fragrance. Similarly, a large number of people all across the world, they are born to poor family. Because they are born to poor family, poverty as a chilling effect simply freezes the creative urge in them. I think that's what I think the cascading effect of poverty is on the creativity part of people who are born to poor family. So, I think to be a development economist, you need to have good grounding. I think a multidisciplinary grounding, as I said just now. And then let me also conclude by saying one more thing. I think let me better cite another poem from Psalm of Life, written by S.W. Longfellow. Just only a couple of lines from this poem to contextualize it with development economics. The poem, the lines of the poem go like this. Trust no future, however pleasant. Trust no future, however pleasant. Act in the living present. Heart within, God overhead. So what does it mean? What does it say? It says that the present is everything past. Let's work on the present, and then that would, I think, secure our future. And this has a powerful message for a development economist. A developmental economist works in the present. He negotiates the nuances, the challenges of the contemporary society, of the contemporary economy, and finds a solution through his or her research. So that's why I think he is not to be, overpowered by the events of the past. Yes, little bit of understanding of the past is okay, but he has to take into account the nuances that the society, I think, provides at the current juncture, and that's what a development economist needs to know and needs to act upon. Finally, Jayashree, let me thank you and Advancing Northeast as a platform for undertaking this very noble job in a very humble way. Today, what Northeast requires is empowering the youth, expanding their capability vector, not only their capability vector and also the capability vector of the society. Advancing Northeast is such a wonderful platform which seamlessly, as I understand, is empowering the youth, expanding their capability vector. I wish you and Advancing Northeast a very, very wonderful time in days to come, and very best to you and also to your platform. Thank you so much.